Hey guys, welcome back to week 2 of Hits and Crits Gaming, where we will be taking down a level 1 White Lion in our new Kingdom Death Monster campaign. We've got an awesome settlement set up with some great starting survivors. I did make a little bit of an error in the fight of our last week's episode that resulted in a severe injury for one of our starting survivors, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that from him moving forward. Hopefully we'll be able to cruise through this lion no issues and be able to build up our settlement even better than it was today. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first of our departing survivors that we're going to talk about is Alistair. Alistair was the one who spent his survival last hunt to throw his founding stone to gain +1 permanent strength. So I think with a level 1 White Lion being considerably stronger than the Prologue White Lion that we fought, we're going to double down here. We're going to give him the full set of rawhide gear, which applies the rawhide armor bonus. We're also going to give him the stone nose, and just as a reminder, on arrival, gain +1 survival and +1 insanity. And then we're going to give him the only weapon we were able to craft, which is the bone blade. The bone blade is not the best, but for right now it's pretty solid. It has a speed of 2, an accuracy of 6+, and a strength of 2. So for a slightly stronger White Lion, I think that's going to be necessary in order for us to score the wounds we need. Next up, we have our blue and green survivors, who blue is going to be Urza and green will be Zachary. Their gear cards will look exactly the same. So unfortunately, because we were unable to buy all the weapons and armor that we wanted, they will be stuck with their starting gear of a founding stone and a cloth. Hopefully, they'll be able to roll lucky enough to score some wounds for us. And last but not least, we have our yellow survivor, Adine. She's one of our new survivors that we found at our settlement. And unfortunately, since we're so low on founding stones, she only gets a piece of cloth. We don't have enough founding stones, so she will be primarily attacking with her fist and tooth attack, which puts her at a severe disadvantage for acquiring wounds. But we can't forget that this attack gains deadly, which means there's +1 luck when you attack with this weapon, meaning she will critically wound on 9s and 10s. So I think we'll see some critical wounds. Okay, so something a little different structure-wise from the Prologue White Lion hunt requires our survivors to actually perform a hunt event before advancing to the showdown with a monster. These hunts are, in my opinion, designed to weaken our survivors as they advance towards their quarry with these specific events. So we'll just go ahead and get started here. We'll reveal our first event, and it is Lion in Heat. The darkness is filled with unearthly screeching and yowling. Huddling together, the survivors close their eyes but cannot sleep. All survivors suffer 1 brain damage. Okay, that isn't great. We'll go ahead and subtract our insanity from everybody. So that leaves our survivors with no brain armor. That's a bit of a bummer. We'll move on to our next event here. Prowling Lion. While the survivors stalk the White Lion, the monster hunts something else. Move the White Lion 1 space away from the survivors on the hunt board in pursuit of its prey. The White Lion starts the showdown with ground fighting in play. Okay. This is our first random hunt event. Those were both White Lion specific events. This is our first one. They all look the same. They're just a random event, which means we have to roll on our random event table. All right, so rolling on that table, let's see what we got. A 28. Okay, so if we go to story number 28, that is Troll Bird. A rumpled, unsightly bird stands in the survivor's path. Its beady, wet eyes blink expectantly, and it calls out with an eerie human chuckle. The survivors may archive 1 consumable item or gear, offering it to the troll bird. If any survivor is insane, they must feed the troll bird. If able, they feed the troll bird, it hops off with a terrible cackle. So none of our survivors are insane, and none of us have any consumable gear. So moving on, if they don't feed the troll bird, it follows the survivors on their hunt, constantly mocking them with its chuckle. Roll 1d10. If any survivor has the coprolalia disorder, they curse at the bird and make vigorous and vulgar gestures. The bird is impressed. Add 3 to your roll. We do not have anybody with that disorder, so rolling on the table. We get a 2. That is never good. 1 through 5. The troll bird makes a terrible racket, alerting the monster. All survivors gain an understanding. At the start of the showdown, the monster ambushes the survivors. Okay, I'm not sure if that's too big of a deal, because he's actually going to start with ground fighting in play. So we may have kind of lucked out there. Let's move on to our next hunt event. It's another random. So we got to roll the dice once again. 58. Let's go have a look at 58. "58 is scent on the wind. A strong wind blows, bringing with it the sense of distant places and things. The event revealer rolls a d10. All right. A lantern. That's quite nice. 6+. The survivors smell their quarry's foul odor and surge forward. The survivors may skip the next hunt space. If this movement starts the showdown, the survivors ambush the monster. Okay, that ends our hunt phase and takes us on to the showdown phase. All right, since we got the board all set up here, I want to remind everybody that during the hunt phase, we drew a card that required ground fighting to start in play. So let's go ahead and go over ground fighting really quick. It's a mood that the white lion has. It's an advanced card. The monster flops onto its side, waiting for attackers to draw near. While ground fighting is in play, do not draw AI cards. When a survivor spends their activation in the zone of death, before resolving the action, the monster performs a basic action with +2 speed and +1 damage targeting the survivor. When the white lion is wounded, discard ground fighting. I don't want to be dramatic, but that is one of the worst possible cards we could have to start this fight, because we don't have anything that can attack him from range aside from a throwing the founding stone, which would put a survivor at a severe disadvantage, but that may be what we have to do. To start here, we're gonna go ahead and search this first piece of terrain, the survivor corpse. We get to search that. If a survivor moves through the space occupied by this terrain, they suffer brain damage equal to monster level. So we don't want to move through it. We want to spend our activation to scavenge. Okay, so we're going to roll 1d10. And it's a 6. So 6 through 10. Gain +3 insanity and 1 skull basic resource. Archive this terrain. So this is going to come right over here. We get to look through here and find ourselves a skull resource. That insanity goes to our new yellow survivor, Adine. She gets the 3 insanity for that because she was the one that searched that survivor corpse. So moving on with the rest of our survivors, since we don't really have to fear the white lion attacking us before we're ready, we're going to go ahead and move into this tall grass. Now the tall grass is another terrain card, and you always have at least one set of tall grass when fighting a white lion. So survivors in spaces occupied by tall grass gain +2 evasion. And if you are standing on a space occupied by tall grass, you disappear into it. If you have the priority target token, remove it. You are not a threat until you attack or move out of a space occupied by tall grass. So that's kind of if you spend your activation in the tall grass. So we'll have him spend his activation to kind of disappear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Spend activation to disappear just for fun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4. The tall grass just helps the evasion aspect. So now that we're all technically not threats, it would be the White Lion's turn, but since he has ground fighting in play, he does not actually draw an AI. So I've been thinking about this for a few minutes. I think what we have to do is throw one of our founding stones. It kind of hurts to sacrifice a weapon this early, but that damage that the White Lion performs with ground fighting could potentially kill one of our survivors right off the bat. So we're going to have Urza throw her founding stone from the tall grass. So we're going to have to archive that gear card for a guaranteed crit on this hit location. So we pull Fuzzy Groin. Oh, terrible. This is like the worst crit in the game. Gain 1 lion testes, White Lion resource. So we'll go ahead and find that. I mean, that's kind of funny. That's a unique card for sure, because we get this lion testes card out of it. But there's a persistent injury, lost ding dong. Your attack destroys the White Lion's healthy genitals. The monster is livid. The White Lion gains +1 damage token. The attacker permanently gains priority target token. The White Lion will attack them until the attacker is dead or the White Lion is dead. No exceptions. And she is fairly defenseless. So, I mean, I'm thinking he's probably going to kill her fairly quick. So I'm going to go grab the priority target token. All right, so we'll slip this underneath Urza. It's kind of her death token. So we get to discard ground fighting. The White Lion stands up, and the survivors can begin their attack. We're going to start things off with Alistair, I think. So we'll move Alistair over into the blind spot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alistair's attacking with the Bone Blade, which has a speed of 2 and an accuracy of 6. But because he's in the blind spot, that accuracy drops down to 5. So we only need 5s here. A 2 and an 8. Scores 1 hit. That draws Soft Belly. A debilitating blow to the soft belly. No reaction on this card. A 5. So I kind of forgot to go over it. The level 1 White Lion has a toughness of 8. So the Bone Blade has a strength of 2, which brings that toughness down to a 6. And Alistair has +1 permanent strength, which brings it down to a 5. So that was the bare minimum that Alistair could roll to score a hit. And that resolves Soft Belly. So now we're going to pass the torch over to Adine, who's going to run around, jump in the blind spot. Now she's attacking with Fist and Tooth, which is really a pretty tough attack to wound with, or even to hit with, really. It has an accuracy of 8+, but in the blind spot, 7s. A 2 and a 3. That's definitely not going to do it. Okay, and so if we think this out, he's going to come after blue no matter what. So we don't really want to get in his way, but we still want to attack him. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because he's going to move this way. So hopefully we just don't trigger any reaction cards. So Zachary's attacking with his Founding Stone, so we'll be hitting on 7s here. An 8 and a 2 again. That's going to score 1 hit. We draw Beast's Chest. See, this was the risk. Standing in front of him. Okay, Beast's Chest. Has a failure on it. Let's see. So without all the massive strength buffs that Alistair has, Zachary's Founding Stone only has a toughness of 1, a strength of 1, which means we're hitting the White Lion on a 7 or better. Not great odds. A 5. So that does result in a failure. So failure for Beast's Chest. Full move monster forward in a straight line. Cancel all hits now out of range. That's going to hurt. Any survivors passed over suffer grab. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So grab means our survivor's knocked down and suffers, come on, stay there, and suffers 1 damage to a random hit location per monster level. Since we're fighting a level 1, that will be 1 damage to Zachary's body. Okay. So that'll be a light hit for Zachary. Not too big of a deal, especially since the White Lion's going to target Urza pretty heavily. That does end the survivor's turn, bringing it back to the White Lion, and he draws Bat around. So pick target is completely irrelevant because he's going after Urza, no matter what. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He does get there. He's got a range of 6. So he rolls 2 dice. He's hitting on a 5+, but because we are in the tall grass, we get 2 evasions. So that actually jumps up to a 7+. He's got to roll a 7 or higher to trigger any damage here. A 3 and a 5. 2 misses. That's best case scenario. She's going to be staying in that tall grass forever till the end. So since that's the end of the White Lion's turn, let's go ahead and get Zachary or Alistair up in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alistair's again swinging that bone blade in the blind spot, looking for some 5s. An 8 and a 10. 2 awesome hits. Let's see what hit locations we get here. So we got Beast's Tricep and Beast's Tail. They both have failure. Well, actually, Beast's Tricep has failure. Beast's Tail has a reaction. So, or a reflex, sorry. So we're going to go ahead and go after Beast's Tricep first. We are looking for 5s or higher to score the wound. A 1. That's nowhere near what we need. So, failure. Perform basic action, target the attacker. Okay. So the White Lion's basic action is 2 speed, accuracy of 2+, 1 damage. Now Zachary has the rawhide gear set, so he has 2 shield or 2 armor at every location, and +1 evasion from that armor set. So anything under a 3 misses. 2 hits. Zachary takes 1 damage to each of these locations, the head and the body. For Alistair, sorry. Alistair, that's no big deal. So it reduces him to 1 at the head and 1 at the body. And since he wasn't knocked down or anything like that, we actually get to try to resolve Beast's Tail, which has a reflex. It's going to hurt our dear Alistair a little bit more unless he critically wounds. A 6. So he does score the wound. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for hits here. So he scores the wound, but unfortunately this reflex occurs regardless of a wound or a failure unless you critically wound. So we're familiar with that reflex. He's going to full move forward in a straight line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alistair's going to get knocked down right there and take 1 set of damage, die of damage to his legs. That's all right. So that 1 damage to his legs is pretty all right. Swallowed up by that rawhide gear. That's the end of his turn. We're not going to move Urza out of that bush. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because she can't get to that one. So we'll run around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and attack with Adine. Adine is attacking with Fist and Tooth, so not great odds, but we're pulling out all the stops, doing what we can here. 1 hit. Excellent. We're going to need another 9 or 10, 8, 9, 10 to score this wound. The hit location drawn is Beast's Brow. So this has a wound reflex reaction. 6. That does not trigger the wound. We do not get to remove an AI. And with everybody where they're at, that's kind of the end of our survivor's turn, because we're not going to move Urza. So we're going to draw the White Lion's next card. Smart Cat. It's an advanced card. Reveal the top 10 AI cards one at a time. Put the first 2 mood cards revealed into play, then shuffle the deck. If no mood cards are put into play as a result of Smart Cat, draw an AI. Archive Smart Cat. So, I mean, we know he's got at least 1 mood. So we'll draw these. Claw, Revenge, Grasp. Bloodthirsty's a mood. And then Ground Fighting's his only other mood. So those both go into play. His remaining AI gets shuffled up, put back into his AI deck. Smart Cat is archived, which is nice. It's like completing a wound. Now to go through his 2 moods that are now in play, we're familiar with Ground Fighting, so he's going to flop over onto his side. And then Bloodthirsty. So when this comes into play, draw an AI. That will be canceled out by Ground Fighting, which means he doesn't draw any AI. When a survivor suffers damage for any reason, place 1 token on Bloodthirsty. At the start of each monster turn, if Bloodthirsty has 3 or more tokens, remove all the tokens and perform a basic action. So that's a bummer. That's unfortunate. But that's the end of the White Lion attack, which means we get to stand up and take our turns. So the White Lion won't attack us so long as we don't spend our activation within his little zone of death. So we're going to move people to get back into the fight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to move here. 1, 2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would technically be the end of the survivor's turn, but since the White Lion doesn't do anything, we'll jump again. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just want him in tall grass to give some cover. Now, we're going to have to throw our final founding stone, which is incredibly inconvenient, but I think it's the best route we can take. So we're going to have Zachary throw his founding stone, archiving it, to draw a hit location for a guaranteed hit. And we draw Beast's Knee. The White Lion's knee twists unnaturally and it shatters. The White Lion gains -1 movement token, which will be good. He now has a range of 5 instead of 6. That discards Ground Fighting. Bloodthirsty still stays in play, but the White Lion now stands. We're going to see if Alistair can get in there with his Bone Blade. He's rolling 2 dice. We're looking for 5s or better. 2 6s. That's got some good potential. We need 2 good hits here. So we draw Beast's Back, which has a failure, and Beast's Flank, which has a wound. So the wound on Beast's Flank actually won't apply to us because of that lost Ding Dong. So we'll go ahead and solve Beast's Flank first, looking for 5s or better. A 9. Perfect. So it would normally trigger the wound, but since that priority target kind of prioritizes over anything, it doesn't actually have any effect on us. So we'll move on to Beast's Back here. A 6. Huge. Huge stuff. That means we get to cancel that failure and remove another AI, which puts the White Lion down to pretty much 3 health right now, because that wound no longer has to be removed. So we're gonna go all out here. We're gonna get Adine in there with her Fist and Tooth attack, looking for 7s. 7 and a 10. Okay. We draw Strange Hand and Beast's Scapular Deltoid. They both have failures. Let's go after Strange Hand first. Looking for 8, 9, 10. Ooh, not even close. A 1. So the failure on this card, instinctively striking back, the White Lion's oddly human hand darts forward. Perform basic action, target the attacker. Okay. White Lion's basic action, we've seen this before. He's rolling 2 dice, hitting us on 2s or better for yellow. 2 big hits to yellow. Yellow takes those, oops, got a jumper, to the feet and to the arms, which are her first hits of the game. So 1 to the legs, 1 to the arms, 2 light hits, no big deal. She gets to roll this attack 1 more time. This would have a much more punishing result. So hopefully she scores the hit with 8, 9, 10 here. She does. She gets the bare minimum. Big hit. Cancels the failure on that card, removes an AI, and really puts the White Lion in a spot where we could be successful here. Because it's now the White Lion's turn, and the only card that he has left is Ground Fighting. Oh no, that worked out horribly. So Ground Fighting is now in play. He flops over onto his side and doesn't draw any AI. So it's back to the survivor's turn. And we're going to move into the grass. 1, 2. And I guess we'll just go all out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alistair's got the best armor, the best chance of withstanding this reaction from Ground Fighting. So we're going to roll. We're looking for 5s or better being in the blind spot. A 6 and a jumper. A 6 and a 1. That's enough to pull 1 hit location, but because of Ground Fighting, when a survivor spends their activation, which we just did in the zone of death, before resolving that action, the monster performs a basic action with 2 speed, plus 2 speed and plus 1 damage targeting the survivor. Which I wonder if our priority target takes preference over this. I'm going to go ahead and say it does, because if we look back through this at our fuzzy groin, so the attacker permanently gains priority target token. The White Lion will attack them until the attacker is dead, no exceptions. So we're going to read that as rule of law here, and he's only got a movement of 5 now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to be it. He can't even get to her. So Ground Fighting would be discarded. Now, unfortunately, I am now out of range to resolve this hit location. So it does not even trigger. That would be... I think that would technically be the end of the survivor's turn, unless we choose to attack with blue. Which... what the heck? Why not? Let's give it a try. 1, 2, 3. So Urza is attacking with Fist and Tooth. We're looking to get rid of that last AI card, Ground Fighting. Looking for 8s or better. We get one, an 8. So that pulls a hit location. Fleshy Gut. This does have a failure. Oh, dropped the dice there. And the only way this succeeds is on an 8, 9, or 10. A 9! Fist and Tooth has Deadly, so not only does that succeed, but that is actually a critical wound. So, critical wound, we cancel reactions on this card. The White Lion vomits all over you. It feels awesome. Gain 1 random basic resource and 3 insanity for Urza. Urza now has 3 pieces of brain armor and 1 random basic resource. We love any extra resources that we can acquire here. Monster Bone. Excellent. We need bones to make weapons, so that's a great addition. Now, not only is that good for a resource, but that's good because it discards his last AI card, which was ground fighting. So now that it's the White Lion's turn again with no AI cards, he just performs his basic action. So he'll turn to attack blue here, and he'll be rolling 2 dice, hitting on 2 or better. Only 1 hit. Let's see where Urza takes that hit. To the waist. We're going to spend Urza's... No, we're not. We're going to let her take that waist armor point away as a result of that attack. We can't forget that we now have to place 1 token on Bloodthirsty to keep track of that. Alright, placing that 1 token on Bloodthirsty, we now pass the torch back over to the survivors, and let's see if we can get Alistair in range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can. Alistair, can he do it? 2 dice with the Bone Blade, looking for 6s. No hits. What a colossal bummer. We're going to play this safe. We're going to jump back into the tall grass, and we're going to give everybody else a chance. This does increase our chance of drawing a trap card, but no hits there. And we're not going to move Adine into range because that would just put her in front of the monster. So back to the White Lion, who's going to perform his basic action, targeting Urza once again. But now Urza gets that 2 evasion, so he's only hitting her on 4s or higher. 2 hits, a head and a hand injury, which isn't super great for Urza, but I do think we're going to spend one of her survival to dodge that headshot, which will bring her to 0 survival, and she'll take that hit to her arms. That would end the basic attack from the White Lion. And now it's back to the survivors. Let's see if Alistair has what it takes to finish this up. 6s with the 5s with the Bone Blade from the blind spot. Holy cow. Oh, okay, 2 1s. That is a no-go. Let's try again. Before I forget, he gets another token on Bloodthirsty because he scored that hit on Urza, which is 2 of the 3 he needs. So let's see if Zachary can do anything needing 7s. 1 hit. That's all we need is 1. Beast's Maw has a failure. Oh, 8, 9, 10. Don't love those odds, but we've done it before. 8, 9, 10. 3. No. No. Failure. The monster roars triumphantly. Roll a d10. On a 4+, the attacker suffers 1 brain damage per monster level and is knocked down. So I'm still going to have this attack Urza, who's blue. That might be incorrect, but I'm just going off of extreme priority target token. No exceptions. So 4+. 7. So she suffers 1 brain damage, brings her down to 2, and is knocked down. And I'm not gonna rip through any more of the hit location just because I'm nervous about drawing the trap. So we'll go back to Monster's turn, who's going to attack Urza once again. Anything over a 4. A 2 and a 5. So 1 hit. 1 hit to Urza's body, which I think is pretty alright. It's a light hit. That does, however, put the 3rd token onto Bloodthirsty. So let's reread this again really quick. At the start of each monster turn, if it has 3+ tokens, remove it and perform an additional basic attack. So that's the end of the White Lion's turn. Alistair, I'm not going to let you try... No, you know what I am. Alistair, with the Bone Blade, let's see what he can do. Looking for 5s. 1 hit. We got to re-roll this one. Please don't hurt it. 2 hits, 2 big hits. He's got 2 chances. The first card we draw is Beast's Maw. The second card is Beast's Temple. Both of these have failures. Ooh. Let's go after Beast's Temple first, looking for a 5 or better. A crit. A crit to end it. All right. So critical wound. Cancel the reactions on this card. The blow wallops the White Lion's head, causing shockwaves of blinding pain. Persistent injury, which doesn't actually matter because he is now defeated. It's the end of the White Lion, and somehow we managed to survive. All right, let's head into the aftermath. All right, so in the aftermath, we get to gain our rewards. Everyone gets +1 hunt XP, which is huge. That actually triggers age events for Alistair, Urza, and Zachary, because they all got 1 hunt XP from their first Prologue White Lion hunt, and they've gotten another one here. So that will take us over to the age table. So age, your time in the darkness changes you. Gain the benefits for the hunt XP milestone you have reached. A survivor may only gain each milestone benefit once a lifetime. So for level 1, which we all just achieved, you may now select a weapon type for weapon proficiency. If you wound a monster with a selected weapon type, you are now eligible to gain a proficiency level during the aftermath. We now roll on the table below. So we'll just do this in order, starting with Zachary. So Zachary, we're going to roll 2 dice, combine them together to see what his rewards are. A 6. So on that table, 3 through 6, Zachary gains +1 permanent strength. Excellent. That is huge. Let's go on to Urza next, our lucky survivor, rolling on that same table. 13. So 7 through 15, she gains 1 random fighting art. So we'll shuffle those up here. See what she gains. That's the one. She gains Monster Claw style. Your Fist and Tooth gains +1 accuracy, +1 strength, and Savage for Urza. Awesome. Because I was thinking about doing a Fist and Tooth proficiency on this one, so I guess we've now found who it's going to be. All right, and last but not least, we have to roll for Alistair. 2 dice. 10. I believe that's the same thing. 7 through 15. Gain 1 random fighting art. Okay. Let's see what else we can get here. So let's grab Alistair's fighting art here. Shuffle these up. Alistair gets Strategist. During the showdown setup, after placing terrain, you may add a giant stone face or a toppled pillar terrain card to the showdown board. That's pretty sweet. Okay, so moving on back to the aftermath. Now that we've resolved all our age, we get to build a Caterium. The first time the White Lion is defeated, add the Caterium to the settlement location. This group gains the following rewards. For level 1, we gain 4 basic resources and 4 White Lion resources. So let's give these a shuffle here. We need a little bit of a better variety when it comes to bones this time. So first, Monster Bone. Okay. Monster Hide. Monster Hide. That's 3. Our 4th is a Monster Organ. Okay. And that's in addition to these that we gained earlier.
So that's a good stack of bones. Now we get 3 white lion specific resources. We do need white fur for armor. Okay, what do we got? Shimmering mane, sinew, great cat bones, and a lion claw. All right, that's in addition to this wonderful lion testy that we got early on. Okay, let's head on back to our settlement. Alrighty, as our survivors head back to the settlement, we have to resolve some events. We need to draw a random settlement event that our survivors encounter on their way back. So those have been shuffled. We pull Skull Eater. Gross. So Skull Eater, randomly choose a returning survivor and give them 3 insanity. If there are no returning survivors, choose a survivor from the settlement to gain 3 insanity. The survivor consumes the skull of a deceased survivor. They awaken a hunger that cannot be stopped and roll on the table below. They gain the following impairment: marrow hunger. When the murder or Skull Eater settlement events are drawn, this survivor is nominated. I'm going to pick Adine for that because our other 3 are a little stronger than she is, so she is going to gain the marrow hunger impairment. Now I have to roll on this table. Roll 1d10 and let's see what we got. A 5. 3 through 7. The Skull Eater's activities go unnoticed. They gain +1 permanent strength and courage. Add the murder settlement event to the timeline next year. That is horrible. Okay, +1 permanent strength and +1 courage. Our next event on the timeline is Endless Screams. So let's go ahead and turn there. Endless Screams. A scream pierces the silence around the settlement. As the noise fades, a chorus of horror rises up in answer. The settlement erupts into chaos, trying to comprehend the source of the terrible wail. You may now hunt the screaming antelope. Add it to the quarry list on the settlement record sheet. Nominate a single survivor to stand amidst the madness. They gain a courage and become the voice of reason. Let's give that... Let's see, who could use a courage? Does it have to be a returning survivor? No. So we're going to give this to probably one of our starters, since she just wasn't able to attend the most previous hunt with us. Where did she go? Lucy, there she is. We're going to give this to Lucy. So Lucy gains a courage and rolls on the table below. 1d10. A 2. That's never good in Kingdom Death. 1, 2. The survivor's face turns pale and the courage drains from their eyes. Without hesitation, the survivor turns on their heels and dashes for the darkness. Sadly, their foot catches a stone face and they fall face first into the floor. The survivor loses 1 courage and suffers the shattered jaw, severe head injury. That sucks. Sorry, Lucy, I was trying to help you out there. Ended up busting your jaw. Alright, so moving into our full-on settlement phase, we had 4 survivors return, which means we return with a full 4 endeavors here, which I've got set out. We were able to add the Caterium to our settlement locations. So to get things started right off the bat, something I like to do is come over here to the Lantern Horde, and I like to innovate. So that costs a monster bone, a monster organ, and a monster hide, which it doesn't have to be monster specific, but those are the most generic resources I have. So I'm going to spend those and an endeavor, and I get to innovate, which means I get to come here to the innovation deck. I get to shuffle them up and then draw 2. We draw Paint and Symposium. Now I get to draw 2 and pick one. So Paint, the settlement swells with the creative energy. All survivors gain the dash survival action. Dash means once per round, spend a survival to gain 1 additional movement and use it immediately. That's pretty great. Symposium is survival limit +1. When a survivor innovates, draw an additional 2 innovation cards to choose from. If you can get Symposium early on, I think you gotta take it. So I'm gonna return Paint to the innovation deck, and that gives us our second innovation. We have Language and Symposium now. Moving forward with how we'd like to spend our resources, I'd like to come to the Caterium first, now that we have this unlocked. Now we have some awesome resources out here, but we also have some resources in our settlement storage that we need to be careful not to forget about. We are going to craft a bow, which means we need to give up a great cat bone and a sinew to craft that bow. So there's the resources we had to spend to craft our bow. I'm going to spend this lion claw to buy an arrow for that bow. And then we are going to spend something out of our storage. Actually, 2 things out of our storage. We have a white fur and a great cat bone. This is needed to purchase the white lion helm. And there is the white lion helm. That's going to pretty much finish up everything we want to do at the Caterium. We're now going to shift over just to our bonesmith. We're going to spend a monster bone and a lion testy to build the bone axe.
All right, so to discuss the items we just bought, let's start here with the White Lion Helm. So this is a piece of White Lion specific armor that gives us 2 armor to our head location. If we connect the red affinity at the bottom and have an existing blue affinity in our gear grid, we can spend our activation and a survival to roar. All non-deaf survivors gain +2 strength until the end of the round. All other survivors gain an insanity. Next we went with the cat gut bow. So this is a weapon with a speed of 2, an accuracy of 7, and a strength of 3. It's cumbersome with a range of 6. Cumbersome means that I have to spend my movement and my activation to shoot the bow, so I can't move and shoot on the same turn. I can, however, aim. When you attack before rolling to hit, you may reduce the speed of this weapon by 1 to gain +2 accuracy for that attack. And then the clawhead arrow is actually separate, so you got to think of the catgut bow shoots regular arrows, but I can load in a clawhead arrow once per showdown. So it's slow, meaning I can never roll more than 1 dice, and it's an ammo for a bow. You must have a bow in your gear grid to activate this. If we hit, the monster gains -1 evasion token, used once per showdown. And then the last thing we bought was a bone axe. It is a weapon with a speed of 2 and an accuracy of 6 and a strength of 3. It also has Savage, which means once per attack, if you critically wound, you cause an additional wound. This effect does not apply to impervious hit locations. And those are the pieces of gear that we bought. Lastly, for our settlement phase, I would like to spend these last 3 endeavors. Since they don't roll over, I'm going to spend them at the Lantern Horde to perform Shared Experience. So Shared Experience reads, nominate a survivor that has 2 or more hunt XP than yourself. They describe the illuminating details of their desired death. If you are not deaf, gain a hunt XP from their story. So we're going to go through with some of our inexperienced survivors, like Alice,
Barristan, and Bowen. They'll be told this story, one endeavor each, from Alistair, who has 2 hunt XP while they have 0, and they will each gain 1 hunt XP. We spent all of our endeavors and all of our resources to upgrade our gear and better prepare ourselves for our next year's encounter. We're now on to Prepare Departing Survivors, so that is going to be where we end this week's episode. Alright guys, I think we had another fairly successful week. We were able to neutralize this white lion without losing any survivors. Even though Urza had that priority target token for the whole game, we were lucky enough to get her out alive and relatively uninjured, which is just huge for us to keep those starting survivors strong and healthy. I think we're set up really well for our next week encounter. I think we'll probably go after another white lion. I tend to hunt a quarry until we can fully utilize all their gear, specifically their armor, which I think is really huge. Now that we can hunt the Screaming Antelope, who knows, maybe we'll go that route. We'll have this week to decide. If you guys are interested in contributing towards survivor names or gear that I buy, let me know in the comments. I think that would be an appropriate way to move forward with this settlement. And if you guys like what you're seeing, do those awesome YouTube things, like, subscribe, and comment. And I appreciate you guys following along on this journey. Again, this is Hits and Crits Gaming. I'm Braden, and we'll catch you next time.